right place. It's Global App Initiative. We are a student organization focusing on developing mobile applications for nonprofit organizations. Those girls are totally in the wrong. So that's our logo. We came up with that last year. Press the next slide. So my name is Habib Khan. I'm the president of Global App Initiative, and
I'm Brian Nussbaum, vice president.
Jade McConathan, secretary.
Davis Baruki, treasurer.
All right. So I'm going to go into explaining a little bit about the club, and you guys will.
We'll go after him and explain different stuff.
Yeah.
It'll be great.
Yeah, it'll be awesome. All right, next slide. All right, so who are we exactly? Like I said, we build mobile apps for nonprofit organizations. And why? Because we basically want to, help the world and using software. Because there are a lot of volunteer organizations, they use manpower to, build homes or like help the needy and the sick. But sometimes these organizations, they really, could use software and some intellectual property that can aid them in what they're already trying to do. For example, last year we built an app for Harlem Hospital for the pediatric emergency department, and there were doctors who were telling parents, immigrant families, how to treat their children's illnesses, but they weren't getting the message. And the children were getting sicker and sicker every week. And there's no good way they had to distribute information to them. Whenever these parents got brochures, they kind of just threw them out. Whenever they got told how to do something, a certain procedure, they didn't really understand what the doctors were saying. So we decided to help them out and build an app for them, an iPad app that the doctor would go through with the immigrant families. And it's in 3 different languages: English, Spanish, French, maybe Chinese too. I'm not sure. But so that sort of closes the language gap and kind of help them, learn about the different illnesses, whether it's diabetes, asthma, sickle cell anemia, things like that. And so that was one of 4 applications we built last year. So what we do, we not only teach you guys how to build mobile apps, we also, help out, nonprofit organizations. And you're not going to find an organization like this anywhere else on campus or anywhere to this scale in the nation. So this is a very special place, and we work together in teams. And so that's basically who we are. We develop in Android, iOS, and we'll even have some Windows 8 stuff, but it's mainly going to be Android and iOS. So past projects, as I mentioned before, we had 4 different mobile apps for 4 different nonprofit organizations. Harlem Hospital, this is actually their team working in our Mac lab. That's in MCS room B20. There are 10 iMacs, and they obviously didn't need all of them. Because there's more to app development than just coding. The only person writing any code was her and him. So the other guys, they're developing the design, artwork, and they're doing management, communicating with the client, working on the app, and really getting down to what does a hospital need, and formulating these ideas, working together. And there are a lot of tasks that were distributed by Catherine. She was the team leader for Harlem Hospital. She's actually an SMG student. And so there's a lot that goes on here. Not only will you be able to learn how to develop mobile apps, but you'll also learn a thing or two about design, management, leadership, and just everything about that. And the hospital actually purchased 20 iPads just because of the app that we developed. It was so important and influential. And that's the scale that we're talking about. Our volunteers, the app that they produce is actually worth tens of thousands of dollars, if you can believe that. So we work on this all year long, and it's worth a lot of money to these nonprofit organizations, and they would not be able to develop an app otherwise. So we volunteer our time, our expertise. We're students, we're trying to learn. So we're doing this, we're sacrificing our time to do something good and also gain something. And yeah, there's Red, White, and Blue, Nourish International, and World Computer Exchange. So these are all organizations that affect the world in a large scale. Red, White, and Blue, they write messages to soldiers. Nourish International, they develop sustainable environments throughout the world, and World Computer Exchange brings technology to third world countries. So those are the sort of nonprofits that we work with, and we really try to help them out, using our free labor. And yeah, but we get a lot out of it too. Speaking of which, yeah.
How did you select those organizations to work?
They came to us. So we didn't even exist, and as soon as we're about to form, September or October of last year, we just got emails. My email gets flooded with nonprofits. I think I started advertising that, oh yeah, we're gonna have 12 nonprofits this year, and started saying that early September, and the people in Splash, but in a week I think 6 nonprofits contacted me. So I'm we're good. I was imagining we'd have 12 by November or something, but it's still September, and yeah, it's our first event is gonna be where we're gonna have nonprofits present their ideas. That's gonna be next Wednesday. So we're gonna have the first round of nonprofits come in, and you choose your favorite nonprofit to work with. So you have a say in this. You're not just gonna be developing an app for any random person. You're going to invest, your own ideas into something that you actually care passionately about. You're gonna hear about, people heard about those 4 organizations last year when we pitched the idea, and they all got their first or second choice. Some people thought World Computer Exchange was cool. Some people thought Nourish International was amazing, and they wanted to contribute and help them. So yeah, you have a say in this, and you'll be able to witness their presentation next week. And so yeah, education. We have a training committee, basically a group of student instructors separate from the e-board. Well, the e-board is included a little bit, but we have professional app developers who are students, actually. Students who were with us last year, and they've gotten really good at programming, and pretty quickly too. And so they're gonna, help you guys out by hosting training sessions, and they'll teach you from the bottom to the top how to actually build an iOS app or an Android app. And so you have to have no prior experience, or you could have some experience. But yeah, we're gonna teach you from scratch how to build an app. And we're gonna have education. We're gonna have modules in every discipline, whether it's design, development, coding. So yeah, you see graphic design. Also, you see leadership. If that's something you're interested in, that'll be separate and later on. But basically, we'll teach you how to program, even if you're a basket weaving major. We will we'll help you out and teach you what what Objective-C or Java, and how to use those languages to develop mobile apps. Okay. And I've already covered a little bit of this, but the general organization of our club right now is that we're going to choose from 12 nonprofits. You're going to be in one team. Last year we had 4, so this year we're multiplying that by 3. Because we had 80 kids working on 4 different projects, and that was 20 per team, and that was insane. So we're trying to increase the number of nonprofits that we're helping out, and this is a very large-scale organization. The people who are here today are mostly people who are new to this organization. We had a previous orientation September 11th, and I think 60 to 70 people came to that, and they're all new. and we have the 80 people from last year, so a number of them are going to continue to be involved. So yeah, this is on a large scale. So whoever we get, we're gonna keep building on that. And this is only September. So we have 12 nonprofits. We break into teams, and then we start designing the app. Jane is going to talk about design and how you start with, after you go through needs analysis, courtesy of Brian, you really look at your nonprofit. Once you select it, you're going to... So basically, you once you select a nonprofit organization to work with, you are going to want to go in depth into their shoes and see what the problem is. What are the problems that they're facing as an organization? Who are the people that they're helping, and how can you help them more? And if you have software in the equation, it unlocks a whole new spectrum of possibility in these organizations that they have not considered before. So you really have to look at what their mission is and then build on that and design your own application. That could mean wireframes, sketches. Jane will go over that. And and then you go into development, and that's when you learn how to do the iOS and Android programming. And then finally, by the end of the year, hopefully we're done by April and we begin testing the apps. Then we will publish to the App Store, and then your organizations will pretty much, they'll start using your apps, and it'll be out there in the real world. In fact, it'll be on the App Store and downloadable by anyone, because we make all of these apps, no matter who they're for, we make them available to the general public. So using our club funds, we are going to publish it to the App Store, and your work will be immortalized. It's not a word I knew that I could use. Okay, and now I'm going to pass it off to Brian on needs analysis.
Okay, so how we're going to go through the next part of this is we're going to kind of go through the entire process that we would for any app. I'm going to do needs analysis, Jane's going to do design, Davis will do programming and development. And basically, we're going to just give you a little taste of everything and see what you guys are interested in, see what you guys like. If you like it all the better. So I'm going to start with needs analysis. So, okay. So one thing that all of us learned last year, which most of us weren't expecting, is that when you're making an app, there is so much more to do than just programming. I know some people would agree with me when I say that designing it, doing needs analysis, and everything else takes up just as much time, if not more, than the actual programming itself. If it's done right, that is. So, okay. Basically, the difference between having needs analysis done and needs analysis not done is that if you do it correctly, you're going to have an app that people are going to love. People are going to want to go to and, oh, I want to download this and play it every day or use it every day. Versus something that, oh yeah, it might serve the right purpose, but is it really going to be wanted by everyone? Are the people that are using it actually going to want to use it? So, to do this, we start off with a couple different main points. So, once you guys select your company, we go, well, first you kind of get to know a little bit about them. You research them prior, and then we're going to have a meeting with them. Each team will have a meeting with their company's spokesperson or whoever that might be. And you want to figure out why do they want to create an app? What's their general reason behind needing an app, whether it be wanting to get just mobilely connected or if they have a really specific, oh, I want to do this. And then we also want to get a little more, I don't know if you call it more broad or specific. There's more information of what are their goals, what are their problems. So one thing that we noticed going through this in the past is that companies generally know what they want, but they don't know everything that they can have. So by doing this thorough analysis of them and figuring out what their company's all about, what they want, what they don't want, we can give them things that they didn't even know was possible, and that they absolutely love. Companies really enjoy when you do that. And finally, who is their target audience? Like I was saying before, you're going to have an app. Is it marketed towards 10-year-olds or towards 60-year-olds? It's going to be a much different app entirely. So those are the main things of needs analysis to begin with. The next thing that we do is we go through something called a user story. So now that we know what all the company's needs are, we need to figure out what the user's needs are. In order to do this, we do this, and it's essentially creating a fictional character who would be using this app. So, so say you're doing a Google Drive app. You're going to be creating a very specific character, giving them, I didn't write it on there, but just giving them very detailed information, so who they are, how old they are, what do they do, what's their family, what do they have for dinner, just everything you could think of. So once you do this, you act out as if you were them the entire experience of whatever it is they're doing. So when you do this, or whatever it is the app is trying to accomplish. So when you do this, you can really get a better idea of exactly what they're doing, exactly what they're doing, exactly what they're thinking, and what their emotions are. And emotions might sound like a really strange thing, but it's actually a really cool thing to think about as you're going through this. Like, oh, are they really frustrated when they're going through this? So you want to focus on that more. All right, so the next step in needs analysis, my favorite part, is magic time. Okay, so what magic time is one of the most useful tools we've discovered in creating new apps. And essentially it's a time where you have the ability to brainstorm ideas without the slightest concern of how plausible, how ridiculous it is, or how realistic it is. So basically, you can, that's interesting. So basically, the idea behind this is that you're brainstorming ideas. Now that you know the needs of your user and the needs of the company, you're brainstorming all these crazy ideas, and even though these ideas might not actually work, something that is thought of that's just ridiculous might actually have a real possibility to be used. So one of my favorite examples of this is, so people were brainstorming, having magic time about an app for bird watching. So someone shouts out, oh, we should make the app to let you be able to fly. And that's just ridiculous. Except then you're thinking about it more and someone else realizes that even though you can't make it fly, you can add a mapping GPS feature that'll track a tagged bird or something, so it's as if you're watching it fly around. So just really cool things come out of this, and like I said before, companies really like it when you come up with things that's not what they asked for. Well, if it's a good thing. But you can come up with really cool things in this way. So that is needs analysis. And now I'll hand it over to Jane with what to do with all the information you just found.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, so before I get started with design and everything, how many people, raise your hand, or jump up down, scream, sing, whatever you want to do, already know how to program? Already know how to program in Xcode? Great, this is great. Okay, so I came in last year with one semester of MATLAB, and that was the entirety, yes. She was my TA, or LA, TA, whatever it was. And that was it. That was all my programming experience. And didn't really know how I felt about Xcode, programming, and whatnot. And then when I got assigned to my team, which was red, white, and blue, started working with design and was like in love with this part of the project sometimes. Okay, so raise your hand if you're here and you want to learn something other than coding. Yeah, okay, so there are some of you. Great, awesome. Okay. So there's like a lot of aspects to this, and all of it is really cool. So Davis, in a few minutes after I'm done, is going to teach you about programming. If that's something you're into, that's awesome. We hope that you try out a little bit of everything and see what you like and what you don't like. Hopefully, you like everything, but it's totally okay if you don't too. I will teach you everything you need to know about design. That's what I love. So Brian comes, he does all this crazy needs analysis, and then you come to me and you say, okay, we have all these ideas. What can we do with them? So I use the 3 W's as a way to design apps. So whiteboards, wireframes, and write-ups are like the 3 steps to get you from ideas to something you can actually program. So here we have Habib with some lovely ideas on a whiteboard in Ingalls. So when you think of, once you kind of have the idea like what you want your app to do, oh, we want it to have a leaderboard. Oh, it needs to have a login screen because the only people who should be allowed to use this are BU students. You write everything out, and then you start sketching really easily, not anything beautiful or anything, where some things could go. Maybe some cool ways for the app to go from one thing to the next thing. Do you want it to have pages? Do you want it to have just like one screen where there's 4 buttons that'll get you to each part that you need? So this is something that you learn. Some people will take ideas that they have from iPhone apps they already use. The app that I developed last year with my team was basically a combination of Fruit Ninja and Draw Something that we just like totally changed the theme of. So you can take a lot of ideas that you already have from iPhone app experiences, but we'll also, in the teaching modules that are starting this Saturday, and we'll go further Saturdays after that, we'll teach you all the different things you can have. So scroll bars, GPS maps, all of those different things that you might not immediately think of, but once you realize they're available to you, can be really useful tools. Teach you how to use those, and then those are the kind of things that you're going to do when you're whiteboarding, figuring out what you want, what you don't need. Then once you're done with whiteboarding, you move on to what is probably the most critical step, wireframes. So this is a sketched out wireframe. This is what a lot of people did last year, is they just draw it out. I did mine on Microsoft Word. What this is it'll show you exactly, like page for page, how the flow of your app is going to go. So if there's a button, what page that button will lead you to. If there's a calendar, where that's going to go, what's going to show up under the calendar, all that stuff. There's actually a great software called Balsamic that we can use now. It already has basically like clip art that is designed right for iPhones. So like it'll have every kind of component that you can put in an app, and you can just click it, drag it on, and that's how you can make this beautiful wireframe. We didn't really utilize that much last year. We didn't really, because the club was just starting out, we didn't really know about it. But second semester, we downloaded the software, and people have trained and know how to use it since then. So anyway, that's wireframing. This is all you need for the programmers to start their work. So once this is done, you pass it on to people who are coding. That might even be yourself, but if you're just on a design team and then you want to go do marketing or graphic design, something like that, then you pass it on to someone else, and they can start developing this. However, a key part of design is showing your ideas to your client. And this is beautiful, but the client sometimes can't really picture this and see like exactly, imagine what their app is going to look like. And to get approval, to know that after you've put hours upon hours of work into it, they're going to like it, something you want to do is kind of beautify this. So that's what I call a write-up. So here is a picture of what the app write-up was for my app last year. I actually turned it into a PowerPoint, but this is really all you need to show your client. It's just a fancier version of your wireframe. Has, some basic graphics. This isn't like the final graphics that you would put in the app. That's what the graphic designers do. But it'll show you, so you can say, oh, there'll be a button here that leads you back to the home page, or you hit the rewards button. That'll take you to the rewards page, maybe. So all different stuff like that. So with this in mind, you can take this to your client, and hopefully they approve it. If they say, oh, I like this, but I want the user page not to have this information and have this information instead. And I want the graphics to look like this. That meeting is where you get all the important feedback you need. That meeting usually has designers and, so there's two types of design. UX design, which is user experience, that's the actual layout, and then graphic design, which, you know, obviously that's where all the pretty stuff comes in. You usually have graphic designers and UX designers at this meeting so that the client can talk to you about the actual structure, how they want it to look, and also what, you know, if there are the color scheme you want, if there are logos that they want on the page, that information goes to the graphic designers. So once you've had that meeting, you're good to go. The UX designers can tell the programmers what needs to be changed, and the graphic designers can get started, and the design process is complete. We move on to programming with Davis.
So, what do you do once you're done with the wireframes? So what do you do once you're done with the wireframes? You start working in Xcode. Xcode is a really user-friendly development software that that we're going to be using to program our apps. And the first step of it is basically doing your wireframe again, but in Xcode. You design the screens in Xcode to match your wireframe. In the middle of the Xcode window, you'll have an iPhone screen, and you just drag and drop buttons, add text boxes, other app things, and you make the screens on Xcode match the screens of your app. And then you add more screens, one for each of the little screens you saw on the previous wireframes. Once you've done all that, you connect the different screens, which is really as simple as command clicking on a button and then dragging it to the screen you want to connect it to. So at this point, what we have is technically an app. You can put it on your phone, and you can click all the buttons as much as you want, and it'll go between the screens, but it's not going to do what you want it to do. At this point, notice that we've written 0 code. Xcode automatically wrote the code that put in all of the buttons, all of the text boxes, and all of the connections between the buttons. But if we want our app to do more than just look pretty, we need to actually start with programming. But first, let's take a look at what Xcode looks like. This is what the Xcode window looks like. Maybe there is nothing. This is the left side of the screen. Is where all of the folders for the file are. Do you have a question?
Are we just going to do iPhone apps, or do you have like Android support as well?
We're going to be working on iPhone apps and Android, but my slides are on the iPhone side of it because that's what I was involved with last year.
Yeah, last year we only had iOS because we want to stay uniform. We're a new club, you know. Before we want everyone to be on the same page, but this year we got 12 organizations, so some of them are going to want Android, some of them are going to want iOS. Some of them, who are going to be ambitious, they might do both. So, and this year we have a lot more support in that. Yeah, basically, yeah, we'll do Android as well.
Yeah, but I don't know enough about the Android process to talk about it right now. On the left side, we have all of the folders that are involved in this particular file. In the middle side, you will see the iPhone window, and we've added in some text boxes, a slider, some buttons, and a scroll wheel. We added all of those just by going to Xcode's developer library. We found one that said button, and then we dragged it over there. We found the scroll wheel, we dragged it there. I don't even think we changed the times. It's literally as simple as clicking and dragging. That's just some code that Xcode put in. Ignore that. That wasn't that bad, right? But next comes the actual programming. But I don't know how to program data, says this stock image. But we're not going to throw you into the editor window without any kind of help. The club has a bunch of different resources that can help get you started and beyond started. So what resources do we have access to? We have a club library. We were approved for funding for it, and the books will be arriving in my mailbox tomorrow. Our club library has books that will teach you Objective-C programming, introductory iOS programming, and advanced iOS programming. And we are currently working to secure more funding for Android development books. But that's what we have now. And these books will be available for club members to borrow and use to learn stuff. We also currently have access to a Mac computer lab in the Mac and Computer Science building, room B20. In one of the previous slides, you saw one of the teams working in that lab. It's a really great place for teams to meet and work. It has a bunch of computers that all have Xcode on them, which is great because you need that. And we're working on getting a second Mac computer lab in the College of Communications. Stay tuned, big stuff's going on. But we're not going to make you learn everything on your own. We're going to start having Saturday programming modules starting in like 4 days, whenever Saturday is from now. They're going to run from 9 to 1 usually, and we're going to give you lunch. So make sure you show up and learn stuff and eat stuff. We're going to be talking about a bunch of different stuff at this one, but one of the things we're going to be talking about is development, which I'm talking about right now. I think that even if your main reason for joining this club isn't because you want to learn how to code, I still think going to maybe a couple of these sessions and seeing what it's like would be a really good thing. You might find it's not as difficult as you thought it was. You might find it's something that you really enjoy doing. Yeah, it's fun stuff. We also had a few professional programmers actually come and speak to our club last year. We had representatives from Apple and Microsoft come and gave talks. They attracted really big crowds. And we have more professionals lined up to come in the coming months. I think our first one's coming in October from Microsoft. Yeah. There's also another resource not on this page because I ran out of space called stackoverflow.com, which someone's heard of it. I didn't see it. Called stackoverflow.com, which is basically a forum for Xcode users. So if you're coding and you run into a problem, chances are you're not the only person who's ever run into that problem. And chances are that someone somewhere has solved that problem somewhere. And a good place to look for that is on Stack Overflow. People post problems and then other people will say, I had that problem, this is how I solved it. And maybe that'll help you solve problems. And there is another resource that gets its own slide because it is important. GitHub. So GitHub is probably the second most important piece of software we use behind Xcode, which is really important. GitHub has a logo that looks like a cat octopus. That is a cat octopus. This one's blacked out, but it actually is. GitHub is used for collaboration, code review, and code management, which are a bunch of words that start with C, that basically mean your entire team can edit a single document that's stored on one web page, which is really convenient to have all of these files saved in one place. You don't have to shuffle emails back and forth or something. And anyone can edit it. They simply pull a document off of GitHub, then they make their changes in Xcode, they save their changes, and then they push it back to GitHub. And Xcode keeps track of all your changes and saves all of your earlier additions. So if you make a big change and then decide, oh, I didn't want to do this, I like the old copy better, you have no worries because it's still there. As I said, it looks like this. You will become much more familiar with GitHub as you start programming. It really makes things a lot easier to share code. You can also put in comments on it next to your changes so people can see why you made a change, which is useful. That's about all I have to say about development. I know a lot of you guys are here because you want to code, and I'm really excited about that because I think it's really fun. And I hope that those of you who have another primary reason for coming here will still give it a shot. You don't have to like it, let you know you can say you tried. I'm going to pass. I'm going to hit the next button. And now I'm going to pass this back to Jake.
All right, hello then. Use this. Okay, so like I said before, I came and didn't really know if I wanted to code or not. I do like coding. I actually learned a little bit. I read some books. It was hard, but I learned some, and it was cool. But there are a lot of other things that you can do in this club, because when it gets right down to it, this club is basically what we've been saying for the last couple weeks is like we feel like we're running a startup with a whole lot of employees. So there are a lot of other things that you can get involved with to help this club, and 4 of the main ones are leadership, fundraising, public relations, and client communication. So leadership roles in general, usually, well, how it worked last year is just if you seemed really interested in something, Habib or Brian would come up to you and be like, hey, do you like this? Do you want to get more involved in this? And then you either say yes or no. This year it's definitely going to be more structured than that. But leadership positions involve running the library. So we have like 15, how many books do we have?
12.
12.
And then we're going to have even more.
So starting with 12 books, organizing the library, so having that, keeping track of that. We have a head of the education committee or being on the education committee. So if you're interested in teaching anything, something that you might know that not other people know, I know Calvin is going to be helping teaching graphic design. I'm helping teaching UX design, and then Brian's teaching needs analysis. Yeah, and there are other people on the education committee. So
we have a whole team for the iOS and Android development.
Yeah, Kevin Mannix, who's not here, is teaching Android, and Rob Crowder is teaching. Rob Crowder and Annie Lane are teaching.
Rob Crowder, Annie Lane, and Timothy.
And Tim.
Teaching iOS.
Tim Chung are teaching iOS. So if you're interested in help teaching things, if next semester, after you learn a whole bunch, you want to help teach things, you can be part of that. Also, there is a public relations committee and fundraising committee. So if you want to be a leader on one of those committees, which I'm going to tell you what that would mean in a second, there are positions for you there as well. So fundraising. Fundraising here is not car washes and bake sales like it is in a lot of other clubs. Mostly that is going to the allocations board and asking for money, going to SAO, going to the School of Engineering, be like, hey, we're doing all this cool stuff, give us money for it. And usually they say yes, and it's great. But it involves a lot of paperwork. So stuff like that, fundraising like that. There's also the club advisor, Professor Rosen, has Kern Family Foundation funding. So working with him to get stuff like that. So that's the kind of fundraising you'd be doing. So if you're interested in that, and then organizing where those funds are going to go to buy more textbooks, to buy iOS devices, to buy Android devices, to pay for hackathons that we might go to, different conferences we might go to, stuff like that. If you're interested in being part of organizing that, that would be the fundraising committee, and that would be run alongside Davis treasurer, money person. Public relations. So one of the major goals of this club is to spread it both on this campus, so getting people from CFA, getting people from comm. Most people who come in are engineering and like computer science majors, but although actually the last orientation that was mainly aimed at people who signed up after Splash, there were a ton of SMG students, so that was super cool. Anyone here who's not from engineering or CS? Yes, yay, okay, cool. Yes. Okay. So yeah. So spreading to the different colleges, and also another major goal is to get other clubs like this onto other campuses. So that is Brian's pet project. Well, it's all of our pet projects, but Brian is spearheading that campaign. So if you're interested in communicating with schools like Gonzaga, Bucknell, and any other ones, if you have friends who are coders and want to start a club, trying to communicate with those schools and getting a program together that we can hand them about 100 pieces of paper saying this is how you run this, that it would be part of public relations committee. It's a really cool project. And then finally, client communication. I talked a little bit about this during design. One of the hardest parts of developing the app is making sure that the client is an active member of, and like since my club last year, she needed to get, the main client, she was starting a nonprofit, so she needed to get her nonprofit status. She needed to get some sponsors from American companies because it was for soldiers, so she wanted like Target and Ford to sponsor her. So stuff like that, making sure that like the client is being like playing an active role in the organization. And then also saying, hey, do you like the design of this? Hey, do you not like the design of this? When do you need this published by? Are there certain people who you're aiming this at? So, the hospital needing, like, what languages do you want us to make this in? Stuff like that. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, being more on management side of things, that client communication is a great way to do that. And there are tons of other roles, but those are just some key ones that a lot of people can be part of. So, yeah. If you have any questions about those, you can come talk to me after this, or anything that Brian or Davis talked about, or we'll be around for questions afterwards, is my main point. But if little outside roles that you maybe didn't think of that you would be interested in, if you want to talk to me about that after, awesome. Okay, and Habib's the wrap up the evening.
All right. All right, thank
hey,
you.
orientation 2. That's us right now.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I just want to emphasize, we basically started from 0 members September 2012. Now it's September 2013. It was just me and Brian. We founded this. And Rob. He stuck around. He graduated though. But okay. So yeah, I mean, and then we got like 10 members and 40 and then to 80, and now we're this big whole thing where this is just an orientation, and there's this many people in September. So there's clearly a lot going on. Maybe it's definitely a little overwhelming, I'm sure, but just take it one step at a time. We have a training session this Saturday, and that's where we'll go over the development. Regardless of where you're coming from, this would be great to attend because you can follow step by step, copy paste the code that that our instructors will have. Basically, there are these 2 sophomores who are brilliant, and they know they've gotten jobs in app development, and they've worked in the professional world for full-time positions in app development, and they were freshmen last year who are part of our club. So you can really get a job in this. You can obtain skills that are valuable and useful for the real world out there. The economy might be rough, but not for us. Not for people, not for people like us. So this is where you make a difference. You come here Wednesday at 7 p.m. Maybe you're hungry and
sorry, I'm gonna be late for class.
Alright, wait. You should write your email address down real quick. Come on.
Send me an email. Let's go.
Alright. So, yeah.
Just as long as we have this quick break in conversation, I want to make something really clear. Development does not mean programming. So when we say, we're going to teach you development.
Thank you.
Don't be like,
Alright, good night. Good luck.
Godspeed.
Oh, man.
Anyway, so when we say we're going to teach you development, don't be like, oh, I don't want to learn how to code, so I'm not going to go to that one. Development just means like the entire thing. We're developing apps. So if we're teaching you development, we're going to teach you design. We're going to teach you needs analysis. We're going to teach you graphic design if that's what you want to learn. So we'll teach you everything. Okay.
I walked into the Digital Media Club meeting today, and it was pretty useful. I know some of you guys who walked in early might have seen a little bit of HTML. This is my first website code written, and that's what they do. They build like a website, but it's for personal use. What we do here at Global App Initiative, what sets us apart from other clubs at BU and other clubs or organizations at colleges throughout the nation, is that we're building something that's meaningful for a nonprofit organization. And for that, we need to follow process, which is why we had you sit through Brian, Jane, and Davis's wonderful presentations, because it's all important. You start with needs analysis. You have to identify the needs and make sure that what you're spending your time on, that it's useful and it will be used. Design, you actually have to spend some time and make it flow. Make sure there's a good flow and that it makes sense for the user and it'll be a pleasurable experience. Because when you build an app, you know, there are some apps that you just like, oh, why the hell did I download this and deleting it? It sucks. But you know, this will be useful. And yeah, so please come to the training session on Saturday, and then you will walk away with building your first app. We can't just have this in like a half hour or an hour session, because the app that you build in a half or an hour it's probably going to suck. So that's why it's 9 to 1. And we are giving away a free lunch, so that will be good. And as I've mentioned briefly before, the meeting you see, the third meeting you see behind me, maybe I should move out of the way, is the nonprofits present. This is where you sign up for teams. And if you have this behind you, you'll actually be able to, you'll have some really great ideas. When you hear them presenting, you'll already have some great ideas as to what kind of app these nonprofits would need. So, I mean, this club, like, there's a lot that's going on, but you know, you take it one step at a time. Next Wednesday, pick a team, pick a nonprofit, and you'll get started. And you'll get started on design, and everything will go smoothly from there. Because we have the whole year, 2013 to 2014, the entire academic year devoted to one app. Each team develops one app, and it's going to be sick. And, or, you know, that's up to you. So,
if you want to make a really long
yeah.
app, go for it.
No, but I have faith in you guys, and we'll be checking in. And as I said, you know, we have a good like leadership structure to make sure that you guys are going to be fine. And yeah, if you're going to leave, you can leave your email there. If yeah, that's yeah, we are adjourned.
Also, if you can't come next Wednesday and you want to be on a team, just either email gai@bu.edu, and we can give you like a description of all the teams so you can sign up for what you want, or coming to, there will be future modules. It's not like this first training session, there's going to be more of them, and so you can sign up at any of those as well. So don't be like, oh shit, I can't come.
Question?
But you can come Saturday. Is there any alternative option?
So we're gonna have a YouTube. I should have mentioned this. We're gonna have a YouTube series. We're gonna have a YouTube page where we post videos of. Actually, if you've noticed, there's a camera right there. This is gonna be the first video in our series, orientation. Just a general overview for people who missed it and were unable to attend. So if you're unable to attend, we'll have this online. And we'll direct that to you. So please, the best way to stay connected is to join our Facebook page if you haven't already. Just search Global App Initiative .org, or wait, no, Global App Initiative on Facebook, and then yeah, and put your email on the list, and you'll get emails from us. Yeah, so I think any other questions? All right, please. Sign up for, put your email down. Yeah, we're going to have some
Or we can just have budgets.